This is a delicious and unusual side dish that can be prepared well in advance. It can also be incorporated into other dishes, as you'll see in the notes ahead. I've got 180 grams of cabbage that I sliced from the center of the cabbage. This is actually a head of cabbage that I used to make cabbage rolls. The whole thing was boiled. You could probably use raw cabbage, but it's convenient if you use some cabbage that's already partially boiled because it'll make the rest of the cooking go faster. And I've got 45 grams of shallots here, which I'm going to coarsely chop in a second here. And to small 4-quart stock pot, I'm going to add the butter and the oil. Heat this up until it begins to foam. I have the heat set on number 6 out of 10. I'm adding the cabbage and the shallots. I chopped the shallots up, as you can see. And I'm also adding about a teaspoon of salt at this point. And just a tiny pinch, maybe a quarter teaspoon of sugar. And I'm going to stir this around a little bit, but don't stir it constantly or it'll never get a chance to caramelize, to turn golden brown. So stir it once in a while, but don't go crazy and stir it all the time. It's been just over 5 minutes now, actually pretty close to 6 minutes. And you can start to see some color developing there. Now I'm going to add that 3/4 of a teaspoon of paprika. I'm using the paprika that I made, as explained in the first volume of the cookbook. And 3/4 of a teaspoon of caraway seeds. We'll stir this around and continue cooking it for another couple of minutes before we add the wine. Actually, it's only been about a minute and a half. Then I'm going to add 2 ounces, 60 milliliters of dry vermouth. And about 30 milliliters, an ounce of sherry. Yeah, you can substitute dry white wine, 90 milliliters, 3 ounces for this if you want. The results will be better with vermouth and sherry mixed together. And after 3 or 4 minutes, you'll see the liquid's mostly evaporated. We've burned off all the alcohol. Now we're going to add a little water, about 90 milliliters of water. Continue simmering it. We want to do the same thing again, get it back down to where it's almost dry. This stage is going to take much longer because the cabbage itself is beginning to exude moisture. After about roughly 9 minutes, it starts to get dry again. Now I'm going to add a teaspoon or 2 of coarsely chopped garlic, and we're going to cook it just a little bit more. It's fairly dry, but we're going to give it just a little bit more to take the edge off that garlic. So maybe like another minute and a half. I let the mixture cool a little bit for a few minutes before I transferred it to the cup of the stick blender. Now you can do this in a regular food processor. The difference is that you'll end up with hard bits of cabbage in the final product. If you like that, then go ahead. Otherwise you'll get a much smoother result if you do it with a stick blender in the cup. I'm adding to this 1 whole egg and an egg yolk, and we process until this is smooth. I have a bowl that I've laid out 120 grams of flour into. I'm going to add the contents of this, now homogeneous. And we begin stirring this together to form the dough, the batter. And it's important not to over stir this. Don't just beat it to a froth, because if you do, you'll end up with hard rubber-like dumplings in the end. So you want to combine it like this, almost like making a souffle. As soon as it comes together, that's enough. That's enough. It should be a little bit light and fluffy and airy. Let it sit like this for the flour to hydrate at room temperature before we continue. But don't put it in a if you're doing this blending in a food processor, don't just dump the flour in and then use the food processor to combine the flour, and otherwise you'll end up with something that's so stiff it'll be like rubber pellets when you're done. We're going to cover it with a damp towel and let it sit. Once the dough has hydrated, bring a pot of water up to a simmer and scrape these off a teaspoon at a time into the water, and you cook them until they float initially. Like so. Now let them cook for about a minute after they float to the surface, just a little bit more, to make sure that they're not going to break up here. Then we're going to scoop them out with a spider to a bowl, and we repeat the process. We've got to work our way through all of this. Now, as you begin accumulating a few of these, add a little bit of vegetable oil and give them a toss. You arrange these in an au gratin dish. Spoon on a little Mornay. This is, of course, only one possible presentation for these. And then put these under the broiler for a few minutes.
If you want to know more about my adventures as a chef around the world and have some great laughs along the way, be sure to check out the video tour of my book, 40 Years in One Night. It's up on YouTube right now. Click the link. If you like my videos, look for my cookbook, now available through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other internet bookseller sites. Also look for my cocktail book, Cocktails of the South Pacific and Beyond, Advanced Mixology, available through Amazon online.